Hey there, fabulous humans. Coach Hudson here, and the focus of this month's coaching video is all around pricing. Now, it doesn't matter what the market's doing in your area, proper pricing of a listing is super duper important. That said, if you're watching this, my spidey senses tell me that you are very likely in a market where things have changed. And while it might be still a seller's market, things are not flying off the shelf as quickly as they used to. And so pricing's always important, and yet maybe nowadays it's a little bit more important. And for a lot of people, we're not used to having proper conversations about price because we're coming off of years of, well, just slap whatever we want on it and we know it's going to sell. So I'm going to go through this in order so that it makes sense. And the goal is by the end of this, you can walk into any listing consultation and leave with a well-priced listing. That's the goal here. So let's start with the beginning, right? Prepping for that listing appointment. I find that a lot of real estate agents have this need, and I don't know where it comes from, and it is what it is. We have all these systems that are out there that can make us this beautiful CMA that we can provide to our potential seller, and they're too confusing. There's too much going on. We're talking ourselves up, and it's not good. What we need to do is go in with limited comps. I'm a big fan of 3. If you need to be extra, have 4. You don't need more than that, especially if you stick to truly apples to apples properties. Don't use all the outliers that are kind of comps. Don't do that, right? Just have the 3 or 4 best ones. Now, that said, if you would like to have knowledge of all of the other comps, that would be great, because what you don't want to do in a listing appointment is have somebody across from the table say, well, what about 123 Main Street? Why aren't you using that one? You want to be able to say, oh no, I know exactly what that one is. Here's why I'm not including it. It's a 4-bedroom, yours is a 3-bedroom. The ones I'm using are 3 bedrooms, whatever it is, right? Don't get caught with your proverbial pants down there. You want to know all of the comps. You just don't want to present them all. It's very confusing. When somebody is looking to sell their house, their mind's going in a million directions. You know that. You do this for a living. We don't want to confuse people. So you're going to go in with apples to apples comparables. Before you actually start talking numbers and you're getting into the pricing conversation, you're going to do your best in your best explanation to talk about the fact that their most important piece of marketing is the price they put on the home. Even though it's a long time since make us an offer was really a strategy that worked, there are still a lot of people out there. And it's not just folks in the older generations, it's younger people too, that really do have this thought that no matter what they price it, we can just tell people, give us an offer, and all of a sudden buyers are going to flock to the door. What we need to do is explain that their most important marketing strategy is nothing that we as the agent is going to do. It's going to be the price they pick. And here's why. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, buyers today have access to so much data. They can see anything, they can see everything. They know what every house is sold for in your neighborhood. They know what things are valued at. And so when we come on at a price that is too high, what a consumer thinks is that that seller is either just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or they don't understand the market. Neither way, nobody wants to deal with that. They can go to the next listing because right now there's more inventory, and they can go to a more realistic seller in their mind and get the job done there. So we have to price it correctly from the start if we're going to have a great marketing strategy. There's these first 14 days of a listing, which is where you really get all the magic. And if we are not priced right, we're not going to get the saves that we want online. We're not going to get the showings that we want. We're certainly not going to get the offers that we want. If you go into the conversation just explaining that, not making it about any particular numbers, but going in with an understanding, you're going to have a better outcome. Now, you're going to get into the pricing conversation and presenting those comparable sales. Make sure that you say comparable sales when you're with the client. Don't be running around saying comp, 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 because they do not necessarily know what you're talking about. And yet, either way, you're going to go in and you're going to discuss them. Now, as you're going through them, you're going to point out the likeness of each property to the property that you're at the listing presentation for. So in other words, you might say something for the first comparable like, hey, so this one, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just like yours, and the kitchen's remodeled, bathrooms are original, similar to your situation, right? Great, cool. And the yard is fenced like yours. Like, you're just gonna go through and you're gonna point out the major features. You might point out square footage, you might, whatever it is, whatever you believe makes it an apples to apples comparable, you're gonna point those things out as you're explaining your 3 or 4 comparables. This is key. You can't just kind of breeze through it. You have to keep saying just like yours, like your house, like you did. You have to keep doing that for all 3 to 4 comps. Because at the very end of presenting them, here's what you're going to do. Now, I already pre-did this, but you would, if you're sitting at the presentation, you would have a notepad, or you would have your, whatever, your tablet, whatever it is, your remarkable that you use that you could write on. The visual of this is the important part here. And by the way, if you're about to think that this is ridiculous, so did I the first time I saw it. And this has worked for me for, goodness, about a decade now. And it works all the time. It's fantastic. So you've already presented the 3, and you're going to say, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we've got 123 Main Street at 522,000, and we've got 345 Main Street at 535,000, and we've got 678 Main Street at 547,000. You're going to write those down as you're saying them, and you're going to draw this box around them. That's important. So you've done, it's going to look like this. Just roll with me. So you've done that, and you're going to say, so based off everything that we've reviewed today, where do you see yourself pricing your home in order to cause it to sell? And your job at that point is to shut up, to not say anything else. They are the next one to speak. They might need time to think. They might chatter with each other. It's fine. You don't get to talk, not until they've given you an answer. It's very important. Here's what I see happen, and I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times at this point. By this example, they're going to give you something between 522 and 547. This works easily 80% of the time without any back and forth. I'm going to get something within that range. I'm happy to get something within that range, so I'm good with it. We're going to go with what they say. I'm not going to argue them. Once in a while, they're going to come with something higher. Here's what you're going to do if they come back with something higher. The actual nuance of this is important. It's what works, okay? You're going to look at the numbers again, look back at them, look at the numbers again, and kind of don't get too condescending. Be careful, but you're going to kind of give them maybe a kind of a little bewildered look and say, I just don't see it. Can you help me understand where you're getting that number from? Same deal. Then you must stop talking until they explain. Because here's what will happen. They will explain something that isn't real. They will start to catch that they sound a little nutty as they're saying things that make no sense. And in my experience, almost every time, somewhere during the explanation, they'll kind of go like this and say, you know what? And then they'll give a price within the range. Now, of course, they're probably going to be towards the top of the range, and that's okay. But they'll give a price within the range. Once in a while, you're going to get somebody who's just not going to accept numbers and logic. And at that point, it's your decision to make. Does this person have high motivation to sell? And do I want to take it even though it's overpriced? It is what it is, right? You can decide at that point. But this has worked wonders for me over the years because I don't want to have a bunch of signs collecting dust out in the world. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind outside of that. If you get the gift that somebody comes in on the low end, or maybe even under the range because you have a highly motivated seller, I want to caution you to never talk a seller up on price. If you get a price lower than you were expecting, you take that gift and you run with it. And don't for a second think that I'm over here wanting you to take advantage of people. If you've been doing this long enough, you realize that underpricing a property is virtually impossible. If you really underprice it, even in a slower market, you're going to end up with multiple showings, multiple offers. It's going to get bid up. It's fine. Okay. But it's very easy to overprice. So a lot of us mean so well that sometimes we might put ourselves out there and say something to talk a seller up because we want to be the hero. The hero is the one that gets the home sold. So never talk that price up. And the last thing that I want to talk about is once you've gotten your price and you've kind of tied things up, the biggest complaint of a real estate agent is that we lack communication skills. And so we want to talk about what's next. Part of that is setting expectations about what this will look like and what pricing looks like. So there's 2 things that I like to talk about before I have left that home. And in fact, I have a form that actually has them initial that they understand this. The first thing I talk about is the concept of statistically, your first offer is going to be your best offer. Now, of course, I explain to them it doesn't mean that it's going to be the best offer they receive as it sits. It's just that we essentially want to counteroffer any bona fide offer that comes in. Because even if it might feel offensive, you never know what somebody might come up to. So I tell people up front, we're going to counter everybody as long as it's a real offer. We've got proof of funds or a pre-approval. even if we don't like it, even if we've got some feelings around it, we talk about that. It works great down the road. I can always come back to that. The other thing is we're going to talk about price adjustments up front. I'm certainly not going to call them price reductions. We're going to call them price adjustments. Okay. And what I'm simply going to explain is that based off real estate statistics, if you've been on the market for 3 weeks and or you've had 10 showings and you haven't had any offers, it's very likely that the message from the market is that your price is too high. So I let them know, look, it's not something that we have to deal with often because we price things properly from the start. And I need you to understand that if 3 weeks or 10 showings have gone by and there's no hints of offers out there, we're gonna talk about it. I'm never gonna make you lower your price or change your price. We are gonna talk about it. And what you're gonna agree with me on right now is that you'll be willing to have that conversation without a fight, without contention. I'm not gonna make you do anything, but it's my job to keep you in reality and keep talking about the things that matter. Your price is always gonna matter. This is how I treat pricing. I have a very, very high percentage of listings actually selling. I very rarely have to do price reductions, and it's been that way for a long time because this is how I handle that pricing conversation and the prep before it. Not having too many comps is key. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have something you do that gets you the right price every time and it's different from this, please share it with me. I would love to learn about it, implement it myself, and share it with the people that I care about. So thank you guys for watching, and go get some properly priced listings, friends.